In a cultural moment that has left even the most neutral spectators blinking in disbelief, Meghan Markle's newest project, as ever, has suffered a humiliating blow publicly dismantled by none other than comedian and political commentator Jon Stewart. The former Daily Show host didn't mince words as he tore into the awkward launch, calling out what he described as the manufactured sincerity and influencer-grade activism that has come to define Meghan's post-royal brand. In doing so, Stewart didn't just mock a failed media release, he ripped open the curtain on a crisis of authenticity that's been brewing for years. Jon Stewart, known for his sharp wit and unfiltered critique of hypocrisy, delivered his takedown during a recent podcast appearance where as ever was brought up in a broader conversation about celebrity activism. His remarks were less about mocking a single project and more about confronting what he framed as the packaging of virtue for profit. In his words, you can't sell meaningful change like you're selling oat milk lattes. And when it feels fake, people turn away. It was a direct jab at Meghan's carefully curated brand image, an image that increasingly feels more like a commercial pitch than a credible mission. Stewart's comments were not made in a vacuum. As ever, which was expected to be Meghan's bold return to storytelling and impactful content, has been riddled with criticism from the start. Touted as a lifestyle and empowerment venture wrapped in a media product, the project debuted to lukewarm interest and immediate skepticism. Viewers and critics alike pointed out the disjointed tone, scripted sentiment, and uncomfortable attempts to create emotional resonance where none was earned. Social media lit up with memes and scathing reviews. It's like watching someone perform empathy, one viral tweet read. Worse still, the numbers don't lie. Streaming data and engagement metrics reveal that As Ever debuted to less than stellar views, far below the projections her team had forecasted, especially after months of pre-launch buzz and high-profile partnerships. Major platforms had hedged their bets on Meghan's name value, but in the wake of the release, quiet reshuffling began. Several major promotional slots were pulled, and insiders at the distribution platform leaked that expectations were not met, and review teams raised red flags early. What makes Stewart's critique particularly damning is that it echoed a sentiment that's already gaining traction in Hollywood and media circles. Meghan Markle has lost the plot. Once seen as a bold disruptor, she's increasingly viewed as someone trying to control a narrative that audiences no longer buy into. From her Spotify deal collapse to the mounting skepticism over her Archetypes podcast, the pattern is undeniable. The public, and now the press, seem to be waking up to the repetitive, performative nature of her endeavors. Even former allies have begun distancing themselves. Industry veteran and media consultant Laura Kensington remarked, "There was a moment when Meghan had cultural capital, but she spent it not on causes, but on branding herself as the cause." That distinction has become increasingly apparent, and critics are no longer afraid to say it aloud. Jon Stewart's takedown, while brutal, is emblematic of a larger shift. The era of celebrity worship, especially when detached from substance, is fading. Audiences want transparency, not platitudes. They want action, not curated virtue signaling. And when a project like As Ever arrives dripping with aesthetic but hollow at its core, they respond with indifference or worse, ridicule. For Meghan, this may be her most public reckoning yet. Not because a comedian cracked a joke at her expense, but because his critique hit a nerve that even her most loyal defenders are finding hard to dismiss. Stewart didn't just clown a failed launch, he captured the growing public fatigue with curated royalty-turned-influencers who mistake attention for admiration. To make matters worse, palace insiders claim that Meghan had personally banked on As Ever being her redemption arc, the project that would prove she could hold her own outside the confines of the monarchy. But instead of elevating her brand, it exposed just how far she's drifted from genuine public trust. One anonymous Hollywood executive even noted, "There's a Meghan fatigue in the room now. It's not hate, it's just exhaustion. The question now isn't whether Meghan will bounce back. It's whether she'll really listen to what voices like Stewart are saying. The sheen of royal titles and Instagram-worthy missions is no longer enough. Substance must follow, or even the most polished platforms will crumble." In the end, Jon Stewart's viral takedown may be remembered less for its sting and more for its truth. Because in a media landscape starving for authenticity, As Ever felt like just another mirage. And the audience, led by voices unafraid to speak plainly, has begun to walk away. And as they walk away, they're not doing so quietly. Critics, media analysts, and former fans alike have begun to articulate what many have felt for years: Meghan Markle's brand no longer inspires, it exhausts. What began as a promising breakaway from royal constraint has devolved into a series of overhyped, underwhelming ventures that feel more about control and image than substance and change. As ever was supposed to be a revival, a reinvention. Instead, it exposed just how deeply disconnected Meghan has become from the cultural pulse she once claimed to understand. In the aftermath of Stewart's remarks, a flood of commentary emerged, not just echoing his sentiments but expanding on them. Public trust is waning, not out of cruelty, but out of disappointment. Many wanted to believe in Meghan as a trailblazer, but the repetition of hollow storytelling and self-centered messaging has led to a collective shrug. At a time when authenticity is everything, curated vulnerability doesn't cut it. If Meghan hoped to reposition herself as a voice for progress, as ever may have done the opposite, cementing her as an example of celebrity disconnect. And this time, not even glossy PR or royal nostalgia may be enough to fix it.